What's going on, beautiful people? Daniel Magyar in the building. Today, I'm going to talk about my biggest bodybuilding mistakes that I've done. And I could have avoided, but I was following the wrong information. I was a young kid. I remember I came to America as a 19-year-old. And I wanted to compete in bodybuilding, so I was looking up all the bodybuilding videos. And back then, there were only a couple of YouTubers, etc. So I followed their advice, and everybody was talking about you got to eat big to get big. However, I took it in a completely different way, in a very wrong way, because I started binge eating like crazy. My calorie intake could be, I swear, 5 to 6,000 calories a day. No cardio whatsoever. So when I came to America, I was like 230. And as soon as I started training, I got up to 280. I gained like 50 pounds immediately. A lot of that weight was just unnecessary. I should have been probably about 250, 60, but I was really force feeding. And they got me to really poor health. I remember I was working a job that required to get up early back then. And I was waking up at about 4:30 a.m. I had to be in front of the house by 5 a.m. until the driver picked me up. And I was collecting data for AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. So we would be driving clusters and collecting data. I swear to God, by 6:30 a.m., I was just done with the day. I had such a big breakfast. I used to eat like 8 whole eggs, a lot of cheese with it, a lot of toast, protein shakes, and oatmeal as a dessert with some peanut butter and honey and stuff like that. I thought that I need to eat as much as possible to get as much muscle as possible. However, that just turned into so much water retention, so much body fat gain, and some muscle. So even if I gained muscle in this period, it was invisible. It was invisible. It was underneath the body fat. It was in the fridge. Couldn't see it. Um, but the worst part was actually how I felt. I was a young 20-year-old kid who could barely sleep. I was snoring like crazy. The entire house was shaking when I went to bed. People were, of course, upset with me, the ones that lived with me at that time. They said, like, dude, you got to do something about that snoring. And I'm like, I don't know. Well, I sleep, so I'm not there. It doesn't bother me. But it didn't change how I felt after I woke up. So I got the really poor sleep. I was exhausted when I woke up. I didn't have energy to function. I swear to God, the only thing I wanted to do was to sleep and eat again. I was never hungry, ever, ever, ever. I was just force feeding constantly. I barely got through my workouts with the low energy. Was because I was eating 5 to 6,000 calories a day, just force feeding, stuffing myself. That led to a lot of gut issues and poor immune system. I was getting sicker and sicker from usual stuff. Like, we always come in touch with bacteria and streptococcus and any surface bacteria on the surface of any items like this table or whatever. It all has bacteria on it. Well, in a normal, healthy body, your immune system fights it off. But I really saw how my immune system declined because I was just overloading my body with the food. I was stressing my body out too much. In the gym, I gotten stronger. I started doing explosive lifts and I started lifting a lot of heavy stuff. I got 335 on overhead press standing. That was with bounce from my knees. So I would bounce my knees and throw the weight up. Flat military press, the highest I've gotten was probably about 305 or 300 pounds, which is just pure press with the straight knees, no bouncing whatsoever. My bench press, highest bench press was 575, and squat was 600 pounds, and deadlift was also about 600 pounds. I wasn't really a strong deadlifter. I don't know why. I really never got into it. It wasn't that impressive to me to deadlift super heavy. I didn't really enjoy that exercise, so I didn't practice it much. So for my height and weight at that time, 6'3", 280, 600-pound deadlift was nothing. It was laughable in the real powerlifting world. Bench press, again, I mean, it was cool for the gym eye, but in terms of the competitive powerlifting was nothing. But it was enough for me. I really enjoyed bench press. I was doing it. But I still remember that exhausting feeling between each set, just yawning, super exhausted. And I grabbed my carbohydrate drink and I started drinking what was I drinking back then? Carbolin product, which are very fast acting sugars that get in the bloodstream within a couple of minutes. They're pretty much just like essential amino acids for the protein. Carbolin is like for the carbs, it gets instantly into your bloodstream. And gives you the energy. So I was using that, but instead of getting energy, I was getting drained from the energy. So between each set, I could literally took a nap, you know. And it was about 5 years, from 20 to 25, until I realized I have to change something up. But the worst part, though, was that I really developed bad binge eating issues. You were used to eating such large portions. I would get like a whole pizza and a Coke and eat that because I was led by this wrong idea of you got to eat big to get big. And I always believed it. Even though I saw that only time I really was shredded was for the bodybuilding competition when I cut it all off and I focused purely on a diet. That wasn't the best diet, of course, just the typical, chicken and rice diet. But it got me in shape, got me for my competitions ready. I won some competitions, I won some overalls and some classes and stuff like that. So that was the only time I was really shredded. And right after the competition, immediately I returned back to the binge eating. What's the point? It's like I was only really shredded for a very short period of time. And I look at the other bodybuilders in town, they're constantly in shape. And these guys are not binge eating like I am. These guys are not eating like I am. They're not lifting the weights the way I am. They're not lifting one single PRs the way I am. So that's where I noticed the difference. I'm like, okay, hold on. That's not going to work. I got to cut back on this binge eating. But then it was like getting rid of the drug addiction because I was eating as much as I wanted of whatever I wanted. And back then I was no carnivore, none of that stuff. So it would be like a 70% clean diet with some meats and normal carbs, but 30% of junk. Getting rid of that was pain in the ass. It's like getting rid of the addiction because I always wanted to return back to kind of unlimited eating, but then you had to use the discipline to cut it off. And it took me a while to get there. It was a long process. And that's why I sympathize with people who go through binge eating issues and I know what to do. I know how they feel. That's why when I get a person like a 400 pound guy who's binge eating and has been binge eating their entire life, I know what it is. I developed binge eating issue myself. I didn't have to. I mean, it's not like I was led to it from the childhood. I just developed it because I wanted to get big. But I got big, really, but way too much body fat and water retention. I know if you saw the pictures from back then, you wouldn't say I'm fat or anything. I was just built like a brick house. But I certainly wasn't shredded or I wasn't defined, which is the whole point of bodybuilding. It's shredded and defined muscle definition, right? So I would get that just for the short period of time. Now, getting rid of that binge eating was really hell of a deal because it was, yeah, I can compare that to like getting rid of the drug addiction. It's food, sugar is very addictive. I mean, the more you eat it, the more you want it. We used to stop by at the fast food places with the driver who I used to work with back then and get some type of a fast food. Now that had to go. I just had to really get used to feeling hungry. And hunger became kind of my friend. I was kind of looking at the hunger as something progressive instead of a punishment. So I started accepting hunger as something that's going to get me to my goal instead of looking at it as something that makes me suffer. I started studying hunger more, and that's how I got to intermittent fasting. I started intermittent fasting, I dropped weight, and eventually got rid of the binge eating issues. But I still cannot go back to eating large portions in one sitting because I return back to the fat kid. That inner fat kid is still within. Like if I allow myself, I can eat stupid amount of food in one sitting, which nobody should do because that just puts a whole lot of stress in your digestive system, even if it's just meat or eggs. I mean, I can go so crazy into the state that I will fall asleep after a meal. And that's not the point. I mean, I need to function throughout the day and I need to have the energy. So that's why when I do one meal a day, it has to be in a deficiency. It has to be a small portion, something about 20 to 25 ounces. That's not going to put me asleep. But if I go crazy somewhere at the all-you-can-eat steakhouse, I can go 50, 60 ounces. Now I'm going to sleep straight after that. And again, food is supposed to give you the energy. It's supposed to give you the building blockers. It's supposed to give you the nutrients to recover the tissues and the hormones, not to destroy you. I mean, you really don't need that much food. You need some good protein, some essential fatty acids, and then the body can be left alone. It has the systems to survive. It's an intelligent and sophisticated organism which was built to survive in a much harsher environment than this is. So you have to understand that you don't need food constantly. You can leave the body alone. You got plenty of energy stored in your body, all over the body from head to your toes that can be burned. Let the body use it up. If you're starving way too much, then yeah, have a little bit of food. If you're not counting calories, wait until you feel really, really hungry. and then eat, 8 to 10 ounces of steak, it's gonna feel like a drop in a well. Like it's not gonna feel like you're satiated or satisfied, but it's definitely gonna make the hunger go away for a little bit. Not entirely, you're not gonna be satisfied, but that's the point. You gotta learn how to be comfortable with the hunger, how to be comfortable in the uncomfortable situation. There are other practices that I do, like cold plunge or really high heat, like saunas. You hold the muscle in pain as long as possible when you work out, just to prove to yourself that you can handle uncomfortable situations. Because when you kind of start doing uncomfortable things all around, the diet itself becomes easier. You just become more resilient to any type of discomfort, right? Waking up early, getting the job done, doing the Elon Musk thing where you take the task and you put 100% focus in that single task and you just cut the distractions, you just focus on the single task and get it done, whatever it might be, workout, job, family, playing with the kid, whatever it is, you take the task, you put 100% focus into it. That's how you get things done the right way. So these are kind of the principles that I applied and really improved my life. But getting comfortable in uncomfortable situations is number one um, thing that you need to master if you want to get rid of the binge eating. At the same time, you need to take care of it. You certainly do. I mean, you probably have 25 attempts of trials and errors when you try to lose weight and you've gotten 50% there and then you just stopped for whatever reason, you hit the resistance point and then you started gaining the weight back. And then once when you gained all the weight back, you panicked and then you restarted the diet again. And now you heard of this new trendy diet and you jumped on that. That probably might be your chance to change. And then you repeated the same pattern over and over. The point is you got to cut the pattern. You got to start doing things that are outside of your pattern. You got to change as a person. And for that, you really need to become friend with the uncomfortable stuff. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. And I'm gonna mention, if you placed the order for the supplements on Monday, Tuesday, I just shipped them out today. I actually got back home from the post office. Red Us 30 mgs are back in stock. We got some stuff for the brain. We got muscle building products. We got some fat burners. Still got a couple L-carnitines in stock. So you can message me about that. If you need help with my services, if you need coaching, you need help with losing weight, you tried 30 times by yourself, didn't work out, dmprotrainer.com is my website where you can order consultations, coaching program, or you can just shoot me a DM and ask, what do I need? What do I even need? I'm ready to start. Let's go. All right. I'll see you again tomorrow. I'm going to be streaming daily now, just like I do in my native language back home. I love doing this. See you later, guys. Bye.